Good evening. Allow me to take you on a journey back in time to the year 2009. That kind of rhymed. So did that. Anyways, I don't know why I'm talking in an accent. It was a time where a young man named me was making a half-ass attempt at being an adult. My personal life was in rough shape, and my father had passed away a few years earlier due to alcohol addiction. And my girlfriend at the time was too busy cheating on me to come home. She'd love to spend my money, though, but I digress. At the time, I was working in a factory applying handles to plastic bags. It was a shitty job for shitty pay, and the winter was as cold as ever. The 12-hour night shifts were exhausting. Inside the factory, I'd be sweating my ass off, then I'd have to walk home frozen in my sweaty clothes. The sun wasn't even up yet. I was severely depressed and smoking a lot of weed to cope. Due to our work breaks being staggered, and because we worked the graveyard shift, the only other person on my lunch break was a small old Asian man. Every lunch, he would bring in soup and slurp it as loud as he could. The cafeteria was absolutely silent except for loud, obnoxious slurping. I was too apathetic to care, and besides, he seemed like a nice man. It was a lonely job until one day a man working near me introduced himself as Creepy Paul, a middle-aged former punk rocker with gaunt cheeks, a thinning red mohawk, a fishnet shirt under his tank top, and black painted fingernails. No judgment, I'm just painting a picture. Besides, I also dressed alternatively, so we quickly bonded over our love of music and weed. He told me that if I ever needed a hookup, he was a dealer. Paul also told me how he used to be in a punk band and asked if I played music. I told him I was actually in a punk band myself, and Paul was excited, so he asked me to send him some of my songs. We became friends on Facebook, and I sent him some of my tracks. At work, he told me how much he loved my songs and that he sent them off to Japan where he knew some big music executives. Paul seemed sincere, but alarm bells started going off in my mind. He didn't look like the type of guy with friends in high places, more like a guy with friends who got high. He looked like Nosferatu on crack, or Vlad the Inhaler of meth. I respectfully declined his offer from Japan. One day I ran out of weed and decided to message Paul. He told me to come over to his place, so my stepbrother and I walked about an hour and a half to the bad end of town. Paul lived in a small grungy apartment with a sagging floor. A young woman wielding a spatula, wearing booty shorts and a sports bra, answered the door. "Is Paul here?" I asked. "Hey, come on in," I heard from behind the door. It was Paul sitting at his kitchen table. We sat down with Paul as the girl went back to making food at the stove. I bought a small amount of weed and we all started smoking together. While we were talking about work and whatnot, I asked Paul, "Why do you have a stripper pole in the middle of your kitchen?" He replied, "Because my daughter's a stripper." I laughed because I was awkward and stoned and honestly thought he was kidding. His daughter turned around from the craft dinner she was making and said, "I really am." I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's cool." I'm a dumbass. Another time, I was with my stepbrother again. My stepbrother doesn't really play a big role in this story, but I definitely want to talk about him another time. For now, I'm just going to talk about Paul. We were at Paul's place again, but this time he needed to go out to grab the weed to be able to sell to us. So we waited at his apartment with his daughter, who was barely wearing anything. She mostly talked about beating the shit out of women at the strip club and having to fight a few men. This girl was tough and kind of crazy, so I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. Luckily, she seemed to like us. My stepbrother was trying to impress her with his knowledge of anime, but she would just look at him like he was an alien. Eventually, Paul came home. I don't know why I said it like that. Eventually, Paul came back, and my stepbrother and I got the hell out of there. The last time I went to Paul's, things seemed relatively normal, maybe because his daughter was at work and my weird stepbrother wasn't there, but we were just chilling, listening to music and smoking. I think Paul maybe was getting a little bit too comfortable around me, because what happened next shocked me. What happened next shocked me to my core. At some point in the conversation, Paul tells me, "Yeah, I'm a Nazi." Obviously, thinking he's making some kind of edgy joke, I laughed it off and said, "Fuck off." He then removes his tank top to reveal a sizable swastika tattooed over his heart. I felt my veins go cold, then burning red hot. I didn't know what to say, so I just blurted out, "Dude, I fucking hate Nazis." He did an awkward laugh and then put his shirt back on. He kind of backpedaled a bit and said, "I'm not really a Nazi anymore. It was more in my punk rock days. We were a skinhead band with a song called Thousands of Dead Cubans. It was about the time all the dead Cubans were washing up ashore in Florida." I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I did try to Google it for the writing of this, and there was something called the Cuban Rafter Crisis from 1959 to 1994,
and it was like an estimated 16,000 to 100,000 people died while trying to flee Cuba to America. It was reported that bodies would just wash up ashore in Florida and Cuba. That's really fucking sad. Anyways, that was the last time I hung out with Paul. Shortly after that, I got fired and I started going to a different dealer. Never saw that creepy fuck again. I never understood why every weed dealer had to be a bit off, but I guess it kind of makes sense. You got to be a bit off to sell drugs in the first place. It's like, why are all politicians assholes? Because it takes a power-hungry asshole to make it to the top in politics. You're not going to really get there being a nice guy. Anyways, I'm so thankful for legalization because I like going to a nice, clean, professional dispensary. It beats the hell out of going to a literal Nazi to buy something to deal with your anxiety. That, in my opinion, is counterproductive. Anyways, that's the end of my story. I'm out. Be awesome. And until next time. Nothing really matters to me. Yeah! So fucking free and not giving a shit about nothing.